Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Craft Room. Over the years I have done one or two Christmas pudding or plum pudding cards. Christmas pudding is a big deal in the UK. I don't know how much of it is a big deal in other parts of the world, so you tell me if you know what I'm talking about when it comes to Christmas pudding. But I have done this one with lots of brandy sauce all over the top of it, and I'm going to show you how I have made this as a kind of semi-punch art project. So we'll start off with doing the gingham background, and I've already got my Stamparatus set up for this. You can see I've done one earlier. What I've done is I've stuck some just strips of Whisper White around the edge, because this is a smaller piece, and also I want all of this to be covered. So I don't just want to have it right up at the edge, because then you can't just get that edge bit. So by sticking that down, it just sort of covers everything. And I've actually also taped a little bit of grid paper underneath, because I also don't want to get loads of ink all over the background, although you can clean them up. What I'll do is I'll just take this off just to sort of show you the process, is that I'm going to lay this down and just sort of try and get that kind of look more or less straight. Pick it up, and then with that on the Stamparatus, I'm just going to look at my lines on the Stamparatus and see if I think I have got that straight. And that looks pretty straight to me. So we're going to stamp this in the Poppy Parade ink. So let's go ahead and do this. I love this Poppy Parade. It is a returning colour, but I think it's returned so long. It's been so long since most people have seen it. It's a bit of a forgotten returning colour, but I am delighted to have it back. And it's a really nice bright one. Now you can see with these big stamps I am pressing all over and making sure I get good contact. The bigger the stamp, and this is always the case whether or not it's on the Stamparatus, the bigger the stamp, the heavier you press. The smaller the stamp, the lighter you press. Now you can see I've got quite a good straight line there. I'm pretty happy with that. You can kind of redo this again if you want to try and get a really solid image, but I quite like, can you see it's kind of missed in a few places. Now I'd say I could, because that's lined up on the Stamparatus, just go again and try and get that completely. Can I just show you on this one? Can you see I've made sure I've got that completely solid on the red pieces. But I actually quite like that, because it's a little bit more vintagey, and the version that I am going to show you today is a little bit more vintagey. And to start off with that vintagey kind of idea, I'm going to use some crumb cake ink and a sponge, and I'm going to sponge the edges here. I've picked up a little bit of crumb cake on my thumb, but don't worry about it, because it's all vintagey. So by just sponging around the edges, can you see you get that kind of really soft look? Okay. Now I'm going to place this onto an early espresso layer, but before I do that I'm going to punch a 1 3/8 scallop circle out of that. That's going to be a layer for my greeting that I'm going to use on this one. And a little tip, if you are sticking onto a piece that you've gutted, that you've taken something out of, then don't do what I normally do, which is go all over the back with your glue. Otherwise, when I put that down, I'll just be sticking it to the grid paper, and we don't want that. Okay, that's lovely. Okay, so I think I'm going to go that way up with that piece. So that's my background piece. So let's get going now with our Christmas pudding. So the first thing I want to do is to punch my pudding shape out. I'm doing this with soft suede, and this is a 2 and a 1/4 inch circle punch. And I'm going to do that again with Very Vanilla. Now with the soft suede one, I'm just going to bring in a little bit of scrap there, and then with early espresso ink, a little bit darker than the suede, I'm going to stamp some raisins and currants all over my pudding. Let's give it a little bit of texture. And my raisins and currants are actually these little snowflake, mini snowflake images from Beautiful Blizzard. If you've got other textures, that will work well too. So I'm going to take my paper snips now and create my brandy sauce, which is flowing down. And there's no kind of right or wrong about how you do this, but I do find it easier to move the cardstock rather than move your scissors. And there we go. And each one's going to be different every time you do it. It will be different. I'm also going to give that a little bit of daubing as well, just to soften it a little bit. And we want some holly on the top. And the holly is coming from Spirited Snowmen, and it's that stamp there. I'll stamp it in Memento, and then I can colour that with my blends. And I'm going to use the dark Poppy Parade. We've also now got Real Red in the Autumn Winter catalogue, if you prefer that. I do like that Poppy Parade as a nice bright red. I'm going in with the Granny Apple Green all over the holly leaves. And then the dark, that was the light Granny Apple on that one, and then a bit of the dark Granny Apple on this one as well. So it just gives a little bit of shading. Right, and I'm going to glue that onto the top. And I'm just going to push it up so it's just a tad above. We're not hardly anything, but just a tad above. And there we go. It's our Christmas pudding. Okay, so we're now going to make the dish for it to sit on. Now, last time I did this with the everyday label punch, but I'm going to have a go with a pretty label punch and see where we get to with that. So I think about like so. And then I'm going to trim off this bottom piece, just leaving a little lip at the bottom. I put that in front of the red, it'll probably show up. Can you see now that's given me quite a nice dish for my pudding to sit in. So we'll do a little bit of stamping on that as well. I'm going to come back in with my Poppy Parade, and I've got this little kind of hashed pattern that's also from Beautiful Blizzard. You could do anything on here. I mean, you could do more holly, make it a real Christmas dish. I'm just going to put a little bit of colour across the top there, and once again kind of daub the edges of my plate. In fact, I think what I will do is just give that a little arc, just give it a little dip in the middle there. Yeah, I think I'm happier with that. There we go, what do you think? Up against that again. I think that works. Okay, so that was the pretty label version. Now also on here we want some steam coming out to show the pudding's nice and hot, and my steam is coming once again from Beautiful Blizzard. This is turning out to be a really useful stamp set for all sorts of things, and steam is just one of them. Which way round? Let's have it that way up and kind of roughly in the middle. There we go. Steam coming out of my pudding, and then I'm going to pop the pudding up on a couple of dimensionals. There we go, and the dish as well. Now, what level do we want that at? About there, do you think? Maybe a little bit further up. Yeah, I think like that. Okay, that looks good. Coming together. And then I'm also going to pop a little greeting on here. I'll just do that on some very vanilla, and I'm going to use the this one is Winter Cheer from Spirited Snowmen. I used a different one on the other project, but let's have a little go with that one. I'm going to punch that out with a circle punch, and this is the 1 1/4 inch. It's just about right for that. And let's pop that up. Once again, let's give that little vintage sponged look on here. And I'll pop that greasing, where do you think? Down at the bottom? Up at the top, I think, on this one. Okay, that's looking good. And there we go. I can put glue all over the back this time. And layer that up, and that is onto a Poppy Parade background. Now you can see I did some slightly different things with my other one. Let me take it out of the cello bag so you can see. So the dish in this one I did using Everyday Label. So which one do you think? I'm not really sure which I prefer of those, but you tell me which one you think. So that's Everyday Label, and that's the Pretty Label. And the greeting from this one, here's to a Christmas filled with comfort and good cheer, is from the Homemade Kitchen, which I thought was quite an appropriate greeting on there as well. With this one I did a lot less of the kind of the vintagey stuff. I did do the still do a little bit on the pudding and the dish and so on, but I didn't do it on my gingham background. So it kind of depends which look you like. This obviously gives a little bit more of a crisp look or a bit more of a vintage look. So I hope you have enjoyed that Christmas pudding card today, and thank you for visiting Elizabeth's Craft Room. I look forward to welcoming you back again soon.